Good biblical morning. This is WORDy, the internet's best, and as far as I know, only daily scripture show. I am Jared, and let's get into today's verse. Genesis 5:3 is our first option, and Adam lived 130 years, and begot a son in his own likeness and after his image, and called him Seth. All right, I'm gonna skip that one because it's just like a historical thing, like it's skip. St. Luke 15:4, what man of you, having 100 sheep, if he lose one of them, doth not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after that which is lost until he find it? Yes, please. All right, so, I mean, seriously, if you have 100 sheep and you lose one, you're not gonna go, yeah, I got 99 more. No, you're gonna leave those 99, you're gonna go look for the 100. That's a basic concept. So the idea here is we're comparing that to God, really, but then we're gonna then take that another step and we're gonna make this real practical when we're talking about ourselves and as youth. Just because you have a youth group with kids in it doesn't mean you're all fine and dandy. I mean, you can be fine and dandy. Clearly seeing the Father's love for the lost here. We're seeing a strong evangelistic missionary call, right? Like there's 100 and then one leaves. So if anything, this should make you kind of obsessed with the concept of follow-up ministry, right? Where someone comes to youth and has been going for a while, and then they stop going. Like I have a student coming in my mind. So you as youth students, like this isn't just your youth pastor's job. This isn't just the senior pastor's job. This isn't just the college leader's job, whatever version of ministry in the church you're in. Kids pastor, if you're watching as a kid, need to go out, right? Like we're seeing the heart, and I'm kind of getting off kind of what the scriptures, I mean, the scriptures going into, you know, it's talking about God, and I'm jumping track here, and I'm talking about you. I'm making this practical for you. So I'm using this as the example of illustrating the Father's love, right? We also have there's the parable of the lost son, where, you know, he goes off and the Father is waiting for him and brings him back in. This idea of reconciliation. In fact, I can't think at all where it is, but there's at least one scripture, I think a lot, that talk about the ministry of reconciliation and how taking a brother who has stumbled and fallen and reconciling him back to God, and, you know, coming with that you know, correction and reproof and saying like, hey, you know what you're doing is wrong. You know, we're always like, oh, don't judge, don't judge. That actually refers to like non-Christians outside of the church. Like, don't judge non-Christians based off of what a Christian's supposed to do. They're not a Christian. Like, we're supposed to win them with love. We're supposed to obviously still preach the truth in the gospel, but we're not supposed to be like, hey, you're not living up to these standards. Well, of course not. They haven't subscribed to them. Versus we as Christians, that we are actually, Paul talks about, we are supposed to judge one another. And the Bible makes it very clear that when we go and judge a brother or sister and bring them back into the fold, bring them back to the Lord, snatching them out of the flames, because they are starting to backsliding. You know, they're not coming anymore. They're not as involved. They're maybe a boyfriend pulled her out, or a girlfriend has distracted her, or sports, or job, or this, or that, or something, and they've stopped coming to church. They've stopped, I mean, that's the outward sign, to stop coming to church and stop coming to youth, and they're struggling and they're backsliding, and you go in and you correct them and say, look, this new group of friends you're hanging out with and the things you guys are doing, this isn't good. Like, you know better. Correct them in love and give them scripture and speak life into them, and you bring them back into the fold. The Bible like flips out about that. Like that's awesome. That's like an amazing thing. And we see here, you're talking about the shepherd leaving the 99 for the one. Grab those kids. Like if you have a girl in your youth group who hasn't been in a while, you don't know, like don't just assume it's because she's decided to become stuck up and doesn't want to come anymore. Assume that there's something going on in her life that's pulling her away, that the enemy's got a plan that he's trying to work in her life to get her away. You need to go in and be like the shepherd, and don't be like, well, I mean, in the historical or in the scriptural context, wouldn't the shepherd, so it represents Jesus, and the closest would be the pastor. Who cares? Just go do it. Like, go bring her back in. Go get her. Same thing if you're a guy and there's a guy in your youth group who has started. Now let's try to stay away from the missionary dating, right? So, oh, there's this really pretty girl at school and she doesn't know Jesus. Like, that's obviously not what I'm talking about here. Let's be very missionary minded. Do you go to school with them? Go have lunch with them. Here's the thing. We've lost, I really feel like the American culture, this is going to be my entrepreneur side speaking a little bit, we've lost the art of extreme action and action taking to get a result. So here's the thing. Get crazy. Change your schedule so you have a class with them. And that seems like a lot, right? Like, oh, I'm going to shift my schedule around. I'm going to talk to my counselor. Go into your counselor's office every single day and demand to have your schedule changed. And they say, well, I can't do that without a vice principal override. Good. Where are they? Let's go talk to them. Let's go. That would be an extreme action, but those are the kind of things we need to do. Like, that wasn't comfortable leaving the 99. You're chilling. You're, the shepherd. You got your little fire and your little, your place. And you're like, oh, great. Sally's sheep is gone. And you got to go out into the weather and the cold and the danger and get it and bring it back. And it's probably going to be like dirty and you're going to have to carry it. That was work for a shepherd to go out and get it. Put in the work. Are they in a sports team? Go join that sports team. I want to go back really quick to the counselor thing because I don't want you to go and ask and then they say no and you say, well, can we? And no, we can't. Like, be persistent. Be like the widow who kept coming to the judge over and over, and finally he said, not because I fear man or God, but because you're going to wear me out, I will give you justice. If you know that school starts at 8 o'clock and you know that the counselors show up at 7:45, you show up at 7:40 every single day outside the counselor's office where they have to see your mug every day until you wear them down. Eventually something's going to happen. Some paper is going to get filed and you're going to get that class, and most likely it's going to be a lot easier than that. You're going to be able to just say, I'm just saying the extremes to go through, and then you get put in the class with them, and then you wear your teacher down until you get to sit next to them, and then every day you say, how you doing? How can I pray for you? You coming to youth on Wednesday? How you doing? Here's a Bible I got you in case you don't have yours. Hey, here's a book of promises for teens. Hey, here's this. Hey, here's a CD or here's a whatever. Hey, last week we did this thing and everyone got candy bars, and I felt bad that you missed out, so I went and got you one of the candy bars. Here you go. This week we're doing this. Are you going to come? And you're going to use that same tactic and to get them back and to bring them back into the fold, like going out and throughout whatever dangers are out there the shepherd had to go through to grab that sheep and bring them back in. Just do whatever it takes to go. If God's putting that in your heart, go do it. And you're like, well, God hasn't specifically told me to. Well, he did. Like, there's like a lot of stuff in the Bible. I'm pointing my phone as if it's the Bible. But that's where I read. I have my preaching Bible, and then this is my reading Bible, is my app. God doesn't have to specifically tell you every little thing that he's already said in here. So if you're reading something, like I talked about yesterday, oh, do not be unequally yoked, God doesn't have to come to you and speak to you and say, you need to break up with Susan because Susan's not a Christian and she's causing you, just like Israel, she's and they'd marry foreign wives and they would pull them away from their gods and worship other things. She's pulling you astray and she's distracting you and leading you away from the things of God. He already says it in here. So that's the thing. We need to be reading our Bible. I really feel awkward using this as my Bible. Maybe I open the Bible, I'll feel better about it. Let's open the Bible and then I'll feel better about it. Okay, see? So if he's already said in here, just do it. Just be obedient, right? So we don't have to be like, well, God didn't tell me. As soon as God comes to me in a prayer time and says, Johnny's not been coming to youth, you need to go speak to him. First off, bro, if you don't even have a prayer time, that's not going to happen. So first, let's get that straight. Don't wait for God to show up if he already says to do it. So we're giving an example of the Father's love. It's not, this isn't the verse, but of the Father's love, of the shepherd going out. So let's be like the shepherd. Let's go out and do it. And then let's also jump to the second part of the show and see how I did. Alright, well, I didn't find anything that just showed that I was completely off. There's a lot of kind of irrelevant for this audience stuff of debating over the 99 versus the 1, what that represents and whatnot. But ultimately, they seem to agree with me that it highlights the Father's love for the one, for going out for the lost, for the sinner. So I think this is going to be a short episode. I think we're going to wrap it up on that. Don't take your youth group for granted. Really love on each other. If you guys have a lot of fighting and cliques and stuff going on right now, start praying for that. Just be the one person to start praying for unity and start just showing love and start moving out of the cliques and hanging out with each of the different groups and going to the person who maybe, you know, you're on one side and they're fighting. Go be that bridge. Go start talking to them. Go start loving them. This has nothing to do with our scripture for today. I guess it kind of does. And be that shepherd, I guess. I guess it does. And leave your group of 99, go to the other group, and just start loving on them. And start bring your group back together. All right, that's all I have for today, guys. As always, I'm Jared Elrod. This has been your daily scripture show, Wordy. And until tomorrow, be blessed. Good biblical morning.